It's a Jackalope Carnival! Jackalope Carnival!
Hi, Eric.
Hey, Becca.
How you doing?
I just got back from a trip.
Oh, really? Even with COVID?
Well, where I went, there was no COVID.
What?
Well, you were there.
Wait, I know I'm not in New Zealand, so where were you?
No, you had a goatee, though.
What?
Yeah, and you were really mean to me.
Well, that's normal.
Wait, I meant you were really nice to me. Anyway. You got to be careful about booking interdimensional trips. You just never know.
Wait a minute, you went on an interdimensional trip?
Why, yes, I did.
To a parallel universe?
I think it might have been a perpendicular one.
Why do you think that?
Well, in that universe, we had a different entire set of politicians, and there was no COVID. Bulldogs all had rubber teeth, and
Okay.
yeah.
So wait a minute. I thought they were parallel universes and not perpendicular universes.
Well, like I said, Kayak had a special, so
So it wasn't quite what you thought.
it was not. And getting there and back, yeah, that large hadron collider, that'll do a number on you.
So I'm
My ears are still ringing.
assuming from this banter, this extremely witty banter, that we're going to talk about parallel universes, interdimensional travel.
We're going to talk about interdimensional travel and parallel universes and both. And we're going to talk about, there's a great story about a man who perhaps was from another dimension, or was he?
Or was he? Well,
Yes.
I'm sure we're going to find out. So why don't you tell us about it?
Okay. In 1954, in Japan, there was a man who landed in the airport, and he went to customs like you do, and he gave them his documents, and the man at customs started to get very confused. And the man who had just landed spoke Japanese, but he spoke it with an accent, a French accent. He couldn't understand what the problem was. And finally, the man from the customs desk said, "Sir, I'm sorry, I've never heard of your country." And the man was incredulous. He said, "My country is centuries old. I've been to Japan many times. There's a company here." And indeed, apparently his passport had stamps in it and he had traveled. But, get your supervisor over here. He was a bit of an interdimensional Karen, as it were.
I really hope those don't come visit us.
Yeah, interdimensional Karen is actually another band name. I just generate these effortlessly. Yeah, so the supervisor comes over. He looks at the paperwork, and again, they're like, there's no country. And the country was called Taured, Taured. The man says, "This is my passport. Here's, my checkbook," so forth and so on. Well, they want to investigate, but it's getting late. So they politely demand that the man, stay in custody. They don't put him in a prison. They put him up in a hotel. And they put a policeman outside his door to make sure he doesn't try to make a getaway while they straighten out this whole thing. And so the next day when they come to collect this man, they open the door and he's gone. And apparently the room was pretty high up off the ground. And so they're wondering what happened. He couldn't have jumped. So they go to get his documents, and they're shocked now that the documents are gone also.
Wait, that they were holding?
The ones they were holding in the inside of the safe. And there are several different versions of the story, but the main facts all seem to be pretty constant. So was the man from Taured a traveler from another dimension? And did he somehow go back to that dimension?
Was he an international cat burglar from an interdimensional international cat burglar?
Yeah, right. Who knows, right? Was he legitimately just as confused as the customs folks were? We don't know. But this story has been told and retold many times on the internet. And we're not quite sure what to make of this story. So I did what I do whenever I encounter a source. I start looking to see what are the primary sources. And guess what I found?
What?
Pretty much nothing. Pretty much absolutely nothing. The furthest, there's tons of stuff about the man from Taured. And the story, by the way, is popular in other countries now. You can find YouTube videos aplenty. I never got to the bottom of the YouTube bin. When I typed in man from Taured into the YouTube search bar, like the videos just kept coming. I never got to the end of it.
Can I ask how many hours of YouTube Man from Taured videos you actually watched?
I didn't log them. So, can I charge overtime to someone? Is that okay?
Yeah. Yeah.
But no, I watched more than anyone should. And there's tons of stuff, if you Google it, there's all kinds of stories too. It's a pretty popular story around the world. So I started wondering where I could find the beginning of this story. And so indeed, 2014 seems to be the beginning. There doesn't seem to be any internet accounts prior to 2014.
Yeah, that's quite a bit later than 1954.
There's a little distance between the two, just a touch. And if I'm wrong, if someone can correct me, please do. So I went to the font of information, the place where all people go to get reliable information on the internet.
Wikipedia?
Reddit.
Oh, yeah, you dug deep there.
I did. And so I get to the Reddit thread about the man from Taured, and there are references to books, to print books. Now, I only have a couple of books from late 20th century dealing with that kind of mysterious stuff. But none of the books that I have mention it. And they do mention mysterious disappearances, which is, I guess, the other end of the interdimensional travel, right? Not the people who mysteriously appear, but the people who mysteriously disappear. Like, there's a surprising amount of accounts from people in the 19th century in America who lived in rural areas.
Yeah, I've heard of some of those. Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah,
no,
definitely.
Please, what have you heard?
No, I think there was one about a woman, and they kind of just decided she was probably had some mental illness, because she had said that, her house was here and the town was completely different, and she seemed really confused.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, honestly, I can't remember, because I was like, this is interesting, but
that sounds like the kind of thing we're talking about here, doesn't it?
Yeah, it really does. And then I got kind of more into that Ong's hat and Ong's egg, but we'll get into that in a minute.
Gotcha. There's a bunch of stories about farmers going out to get water, and a couple where like the people literally disappeared in front of their families. But in the 19th century, no one was talking about interdimensional travel. It didn't exist. I mean, it may have existed, but no one had a word for it, at least in our universe. So that was happening, but none of the 20th century books that I have, and I don't have a lot, but I have a few, mentioned anything about this man from Taured. But the Reddit thread did mention two books from the late 20th century, like the 1970s. One was from the 70s, one from the 80s. But they were both out of print. And when I went to go look them up, I could find them from book vendors, but they were out of not my price range, but more than I was willing to spend one Thursday night. One was like $54 and the other was in the $80 range. But neither one of those, in both those books, were supposed to have a mention of this story. So I tried to track down whether or not there were excerpts from those books. Maybe someone had scanned in or typed in some of the words from those books. And I did find something that was reported to be from one of those books, but when I opened up the site, it was all gibberish.
Like wingdings kind of gibberish?
No, like random words, like English, but random words. Huh. And I know there's a name for that in publishing, when you put random words down just to like...
Lorem ipsum?
Is that what it is?
Lorem ipsum, yeah, I think so.
So I assume either I found that or I found like some top secret code. Who knows? One of the two.
Or maybe that's just how it was written in that dimension, and that's just how they write in that dimension. Maybe we all read wingdings and lorem ipsum. Lorem ipsum.
Lorem ipsum. There you go. Yeah. But anyway, it wasn't it did not seem to be real. So I mean, maybe I'll get curious enough about this that I'll buy one of those two books. But as it stands at the moment, I guess that'll be the end of the line there. Interestingly enough, though, there were two other pieces of media about the man from Taured, but they both come from about 2014, 2015. One was a self-published book that you can buy on Amazon. It looks like it's self-published, and it came out around that time, 2015. And then there also, IMDb also has a page for an 11-minute short called The Man from Taured, and it's a mystery. And it has a director, Nick Christensen. It has a writer, Seth Luke. It even has a cast of actors and what they played. This came out in 2015. And so I wonder if what was happening was someone developed a backstory that they were trying to sell as a true story to promote their short or their short story or whatever, or their book. And somehow it, escaped the zoo and is now running wild as its own story.
That's interesting. There's a few that have done that.
Oh,
well, like the Ong's hat, that's exactly kind of what happened. It was established somehow as like, some think it was backstory, some think it was just like some friends messing around. And it started out like, I think in the 80s, maybe the late 80s, and then through the 90s in zines and in other medium. And
is
eventually
it like the first like alternative reality game that we have on record?
Yeah, I mean, they think it might be. That's what they're calling it. I think at the time, we didn't really have those. But yeah, essentially, it's the first ARG.
So ARG without the internet, that must have been actually difficult to pull off.
And really fun, if you think about it. That probably would have been a really fun thing. They started to get like radio hosts from some of those more sort of like paranormal and weird stuff, radio programs to interview him, and he would talk about it. And it was about this place that's in the woods of New Jersey, and it had some scientists going on. So it's an actual place. It's a ghost town in the New Jersey woods. But apparently there was, the story goes, and I'm not 100% versed on the story, but the story is essentially that there were scientists and they have interdimensional travel that happens. And what's interesting about this is that it took a life of its own, just like you're saying. It took a life of its own so much that you can look up Joseph Matney. He's the one who came up with it, and he has his own webpage, in which he calls himself multidisciplinary artist, mythological and liminal fiction author, and the creator of Ong's Hat, the original proto-alternative reality game and online legend trip. So this is what he's saying about himself.
Online legend trip.
Yeah. He says right out that this is what it is, but people still don't believe it. There are people who say that he was paid off, that he was threatened, that he's doing this to hide the truth, and for years and years, because this one went on for a really long time, and that's what's so impressive about it.
And it went on, and he didn't admit that it was like a fictional thing until later.
Yes.
How many years?
Well, I mean, if it started in the 80s, then I think the early 2000s. So.
Oh wow.
Quite some time.
Yeah.
And he had friends in on it. And so, yeah, whether that was fiction or not, I mean, it's not, I don't believe it. I believe that he made it up, but it's not unfeasible that someone would retract if they were threatened. That's not unfeasible. I don't believe that's the case with this, but it makes me wonder, like, how far, if you're thinking the man from Taured's the same thing, it just makes me wonder how far it'll go and how long we'll see it.
There always seems to be like some governmental conspiracies whenever we talk about interdimensional travel. Like that seems to be like a common theme in the stories,
I do, yeah.
I wonder if that's just, if that's part of the trope, or, if whenever you travel between dimensions, governments don't like it. I don't know. Maybe it's because you don't have
Eric. I mean, you recently traveled between dimensions, so you're the one to tell us.
Well, I saw me, and I didn't have facial hair, but I was such a wimp. Over there.
That's right. Over there
in the perpendicular universe. I had all my paperwork too. Kayak hooked me up. But anyhow, talking about these this alternative dimension stuff, that led me down another down the rabbit hole. How about that? How's that for a segue? Because the idea
The
of
jackalope pole.
the jackalope hole, as it were, which has to be pretty wide to accommodate the antlers. But the idea of traveling to another world goes back quite a bit. I mean, if you think about it, it's probably as old as stories themselves, because we do have stories of traveling to the world of the Fae, right? That's something from European folklore. And
Absolutely.
you can kind of think of that as interdimensional travel, I suppose.
Yeah, I would think so. I would think, and then talking about other worlds, I mean, there's definite religious traditions that have talked about that there's different worlds. There's water worlds and there's sky world. So yeah, I could see that interpreted in a different way at a different time.
Whereas, you know, within the medieval Christian European conception, hell and heaven weren't seen as dimensions. They were seen as like actual physical places in this plane of reality, right? Heaven was literally above the sky and hell was literally below the earth. At least that's the way we're kind of told about it, in kind of like
Was
Dante's Inferno kind of way.
Wasn't that with Saint Augustine? Sort of the hell is real.
You know, I would have to. I'm a little
pretty, yeah.
rusty on my Augustine, for all
Yeah.
kinds of reasons. That'll be
We're gonna go with yes on that one.
I'm gonna yeah. Okay, sounds good. We'll go with yes. Perfect. But honestly, I think nowadays more Christians don't think of hell and heaven as physical places anymore, right?
Actually, I think you're right. And the Baptist church stood up and said, no, hell is real. Like they issued something to make sure. And it's not like all Baptists, but we don't need to go down this jackalope hole.
Well, you're right. I mean, Christians can say it's real, but in another dimension. Whereas I think once upon a time, people thought if you dug deep enough in this earth, like you would reach a place called hell.
I think there's still horror movies about that.
Right. Or, you know, I wonder about like the Greek, the Greek idea of the shades and the abode of the shades being literally in caves, you know, literal caves. But that isn't what we're talking about here. We're talking about other dimensions. And so I started kind of poking around to see, when did people start thinking of things in terms of dimensions of reality, rather than just sort of like another earth or another place like in this physical plane. And I discovered that science started talking about it in the 1950s. And that's as part of the idea of quantum mechanics and what they call the many worlds theory. And the many worlds theory, you know, all the rock stars of physics kind of seem to sign on to this. The Neil deGrasse Tyson and the Stephen Hawking, they all seem to back this idea that there is another universe, another one just like ours.
Possibilities, yeah.
And each time, you know, every time you make a decision, there's another one. So I, for example, for dinner had cold, you know, veggie momos, which are my new favorite food, by the way.
I have no idea what that is.
It is, oh my gosh, really? So do you know gyoza? So
yes.
The dumplings you get? It's like that, but they're Nepali and they're vegetarian and they don't have soy in them and they're fantastic.
Interesting.
Yeah, you should go to
momos. Yes, I do know what momos are. I don't know why. I thought you said something different. Okay, yes.
Yeah.
And sometimes they're served in broth and sometimes they're served fried. Yeah.
And you know what? Like in another universe, there was another Eric who was eating gyoza instead.
Interesting. That's not to insult Eric's food choices, but I just think that that's like, I don't know, you think about another universe being so exciting and then you hear like, yes, in this one you had something different for dinner.
But, you know, the idea is that there might be infinite numbers of universe. In another one,
exactly.
You know, I have superpowers and I flew away or something, I guess.
I think they still operate on similar laws of physics, don't they?
I guess. I mean, the perpendicular universe I just came back from, it's just a matter of facial hair, really.
Okay.
Facial hair and your alignment.
Chaotic neutral.
Okay, right. Well, you are the chaotic neutral, Becca, here, but over there, you were actually lawful evil. So, yeah, we'll just leave that there. So when did folks start talking about alternative universes in, you know, amongst the common folk? Because there were papers of theoretical physicists, you know, talking about this to other physicists. But I think in the 1950s and 60s, it wasn't something that people talked about. I mean, nowadays, I think that if you say the word alternative universe or parallel universe, I think the average relatively educated person is going to know what you're talking about.
Or someone who's watched The Big Bang Theory, because I'm pretty sure it was talked about on there.
Right. Well, exactly. Right. It's a trope in
pop culture. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So when did that start? And, you know, the likely suspect, of course, is...
Could it be the Twilight Zone?
And I looked, there's a great, actually, Wikipedia article. My research this week is all Wikipedia and Reddit. My students are listening to me. Don't do it. But,
Any student, anywhere.
Yeah, don't. Son, don't do what I did. I'm not proud. But yes, so I did. But there's a synopsis of whole seasons. Why wouldn't they use that source if they're real? But there was nothing in it that immediately jumped out from my perusal that talked about alternative universes. But I did find, or I should say, the first thing that I found that kind of talked about it in its recognizable form was actually a show that is near and dear to both of our hearts and that I've been referencing this whole time.
Star Trek?
Indeed. Because in that Star Trek, right, I think it's called Mirror Mirror, I think is the episode.
I believe you're correct.
It's the one where Kirk and Spock go to the alternative universe, and there's an evil Kirk and an evil Spock, and evil Spock has a goatee, and that's how you can tell them apart.
Well, yeah, that's how it works. Immediately when you do bad things, you sprout a goatee.
And so it entered pop culture there. And then, of course, since then, it's been the subject of books and movies and TV shows. Do you remember Sliders?
I do remember that show. Wow.
Right? That was the whole premise of that show was you had people who were sliding between, alternative universes.
I mean, and then, of course, Stranger Things, the Upside Down, it's a parallel dimension, it's another dimension.
Absolutely. And then you have also Quantum Leap.
That's just going off of the Star Trek deep dive. I'm not letting you dive this deep into Star Trek actors and what they've done.
No, there's more. Jean-Luc Picard.
No.
Yeah, so right, it's now trope. It's now part of our everyday language. But that's the thing, right? Is the Man from Taured story, if it really was, and if it really is, I guess, from the 1950s, would they have interpreted it that way? And some of the Redditors seem to talk about, no, back when the story was first told, it was viewed through a lens of the Cold War. And
yeah, I think that sounds more likely.
Yeah, right, sure. Well, in that, spies are something we hear about regularly, and interdimensional travel is not. But what if you don't come back from your interdimensional travel? And that's why you just don't hear about it.
What if you just like it there?
Or what if you just can't?
Well, I mean,
what if you accidentally book a one-way ticket on Kayak?
It seems like you didn't read the fine print. You only booked a one-way interdimensional travel ticket.
Yeah, and you just get stuck there. There are in a couple of the books I was reading, there are stories of like strange people popping out of nowhere, and a couple of them, strangely enough, had green skin. But that might be another show.
The thing is that in some of the theories, like the multiverse theory, rather than the universe, which is one, but the multiverse theory, some of them that there's infinite universes. So there's different multiverse theory that some of them it's finite and some of it's infinite. If it's infinite and you traveled, it would be really hard to get back to the one you left.
It's like trying to, when you have cable, when you're trying to find that show, and you have like 100 channels. And it's worse because it's infinite.
So you're just infinitely going through, or like, looking through YouTube videos for one on the Man from Taured.
There was no end, Becca. There was no end.
If you got in one of those YouTube videos, how could you find Baltimore?
And off you would go. That's it. And it isn't just English, actually. So this story actually picked up legs, and folks in India apparently are very into it because there's a ton of Hindi language YouTube videos about it. There's some Japanese ones. So if this story started
Eric,
as
very seriously,
fiction,
are the Japanese ones accented in French?
These are the questions we need to know. And I have one more thing. I need to tell you this because this will add to my bona fides. Besides a serious researcher who, of course, looked in both Reddit and Wikipedia, I also looked for any mention of the Man from Taured in both for TN Times and Fate, which are both, they're magazines, like print magazines from the pulp era that chronicled strange events, psychic phenomenon, aliens, monsters, that kind of thing.
Our bag.
And neither one I couldn't find a mention of the Man from Taured in either of those magazines. And I think that actually I might need to get a subscription to one of these two magazines or both of them, for research purposes.
Are they still in print?
They are.
Wow.
I was happy to find out. So I
There's no trace. There's
None.
no electronic trace.
No electronic trace.
Like, I can't believe I asked that. Like, are they of course they are. What a question.
So can we talk about Mandela effect? Have you heard about this?
I did hear about it. I think we were sitting on a zebra in Paris.
Speaking French with Japanese accents.
That's why I didn't remember right away.
Yes, I had a goatee. Okay, so the idea of the Mandela effect is this. It's another thing from the multiverse kind of thing. And this is another kind of relic of modern pop culture. This one does not appear to have an origin in any kind of fiction. And I really think after wading through this, that this one is an actual, it could be a piece of folklore. It could be kind of like an urban legend on steroids. But I think that it was created either as an actual hoax in real life without being like a print hoax. Like it began the way, all urban legends do. It became a story that someone told and got retold. But the idea is that when Nelson Mandela died in 2013, some folks were shocked by that news, and not because just an important, world figure died, but because they remember him dying in prison in the 1980s. And so they were like, what? He's dead, but he's been dead for decades. And someone, mentioned this, I guess, and some other people signed on and said, well, absolutely, Lynn, what are you talking about? Nelson Mandela died in 2013. And apparently there's a lot of folks who remember Nelson Mandela dying while still in prison in the 1980s. And so the name Mandela effect goes to this idea that a lot of people seem to have a memory about something that no longer seems to be true. And one of the interpretations of this is that, again, we're talking about multiverse, that people have somehow switched over to another, wavelength universe channel where things are different than their home universe used to be.
Or they could have mistaken him for another activist that got killed. That could have happened.
I mean, in my universe, I remember Nelson Mandela being alive because I remember when he was freed in the 1990s. And I remember listening to Ice-T's album where in one of his songs, he mentions Mandela being free. So I know he didn't die in the 80s. So I must not be from that universe because...
No.
Clearly not. Clearly not from that universe.
Okay, did I have a goatee in that universe? That's the... I think I'm going to work on you with trying to like get you to remember things wrong. Like, hey, didn't you once write a song about like your love of Smurf Bread Crunch cereal?
See, but that song exists. So if you type in Mandela effect into a search engine, the first thing that pops up is false memory syndrome in a Wikipedia page. And the idea that memory is not as reliable as we think it is. And
no, it's absolutely not. I agree with that.
Yeah, that's experimentally been shown pretty reliably.
Yeah.
That being said, there are some examples of the Mandela effect that are creepy. Like I asked you earlier this week, is it Berenstain Bears or Berenstein Bears?
I said I didn't know.
Yeah. And apparently it's Berenstain.
Were you trying to Mandela affect me?
I was.
And I'm just like, I don't know.
You're like, yeah, whatever. Talk to you later. Bye. Or, my mom used to buy me Fruit of the Loom underwear. Do you know the logo to Fruit of the Loom? Have you ever seen that?
I can't say I have. I'm sure I have. I don't remember. Just like the Bears. I don't know.
This doesn't help. You have to actually know the thing that I'm referencing in order for it to work. Well, how about this? Does Flintstones have 2 T's or 1?
I don't know. Well, in the word? Well, it has to have 2 because stone is a word and flint is a word.
I'm not sure which one that is. That's a really. I
see where you're going. Yeah, I see where you're going.
We're both from the same universe, though. So here's the thing. Okay, how about this one? You know the song "We Are the Champions."
Hmm.
You know
Okay,
how like at the crescendo he sings "We are the champions," and and then the music stops and he goes "of the world."
I
It's
think I
that's
think
not
there's a
actually
chance.
that's
I
not the
think there's
song.
a chance I may not actually be sure if I know anything.
None of this, huh? None of this is ringing true. Wow.
No, I mean this is something though. It's like someone accuses me, "Did you do this?" I'll say yes. "Oh yeah, I did," and then I'll find out later I didn't. So I'm pretty like, yeah, it must have been me. Sure. And
Okay,
then
fine.
I
Here's what you have to know. You have to know this.
okay.
How about Smokey? Do you remember Smokey the Bear?
Yes, I've been to his grave. It's
Except it,
in Capitan, New Mexico. Yes, it's absolutely he has a grave.
Becca, are you ready for this? Because I'm about to blow your mind.
No, you're not.
It's not. It's not Smokey the Bear. It's Smokey Bear.
Is it? I actually have photos of his grave, so I'll find out. Smokey Bear.
Well, that's the thing, though, right? So even pictures become altered and changed, and other records. So people remember things being one way, and then they'll look at their pictures, and the pictures have altered too.
I don't. Oh, so that's in the theory.
In the
Well, I
theory,
know. I mean, he was a real bear, and he was a baby, and he was surviving on the top of a tree from a forest fire, and so they named their Smokey Bear. Apparently, I'm wrong on Smokey. Apparently they named it after him. Ah, you just
so
blown
yeah.
my mind.
Well, it
Nothing
took a
is
while.
real.
Yeah, right.
Nothing is real.
The world is a lie. It took a while, but I finally found one. So this is the Mandela effect. But the funny thing is, I'm sitting here looking at this source because this is the one that made me.
Honestly, I also don't believe that it's Smokey the Bear. I mean, a Smokey Bear and not Smokey the Bear. I'm just gonna throw it out there.
Well, you know what? You're going to look it up and you're going to see it's right because I have a very reliable source for all these things. You ready?
Wikipedia, Reddit.
Even better. I'm currently on goodhousekeeping.com. And I'm not lying. That's actually like there is a Mandela effect story in Good Housekeeping. It was published on August 6, 2019.
Interesting.
So yeah, I mean this whatever it is, right? This urban legend, hoax, whatever it is, has hit the mainstream because everyone knows when you've hit Good Housekeeping, you've hit the big time.
Hey, I mean, don't slack it. Someone's getting paid for their journalism, and you're using it, so.
Absolutely, and her name is Blake Bakula, and good job, Blake. Well done.
Bakula, like Scott Bakula. Are you bringing this back with us to
no.
Star Trek again?
She does not have a. There's a picture next to her byline. She does not have a goatee, just for the record.
Okay, and it's a little coincidental that happened to be her name, but all right. Well, that was really interesting. I don't know how I feel about any of that. I love the theory.
Somewhere in the multiverse, there's a Becca who's totally digging this theory and believes it 100%.
I'm still like upset about Smokey Bear.
Well, next episode, you're gonna have to come back and see what you found.
Oh, I Googled it already. It's Smokey Bear, apparently.
See, it did change. I blew your mind.
I'm not happy with this. I'm going to start a petition to change it to Smokey the Bear. But
well, if you want to, there are lists and lists of Mandela effect things that are supposed to have been altered. So go look it up. There's tons of it.
I will. Well, like I said, I like the multiverse theory. It's one of those that I think is probably quite possible. As far as other things we talk about where I might not necessarily think are quite so possible. But I do think multiverse is possible. We just don't understand it yet, and we don't understand how to access. Well, yeah, darn it, now I do. Now, let me ask you, is it regular kayak, or do I have to access a certain, special page, just so I know?
You have to go in and type in the special code Taured.
All right.
Taured.
All right, well, I'll use that on one of our later episodes. Well, that was really interesting. Actually, I did like it. I'm still, like I said, ticked off about Smokey Bear, but
Mind blown.
Thanks, Eric. I hope everyone has a great rest of their day and tune in to us next week. We'll have another episode for you. So thank you all so much for being here and listening. Hopefully you've listened to all 4 of our episodes at this point, and we'll have more for you soon. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Jackalope Carnival!